back again with another Walstad video. It's the one that everybody's been asking for. It's the one on how to build a Walstad tank. So I'm going to take you through step by step everything that I do and that I've done building my Walstad tank. I'm going to take you through the type of dirt that I use. I'm going to take you through cleaning up a fish tank if you bought it used, how to get the fish tank ready, cleaning up the equipment. I'm going to try to do step by step in a series of videos everything that you need to do to have a successful Walstad tank. Now, most people are usually buying their tanks, especially their first tanks, off of something like Craigslist or used from a friend or something like that. So I've got a really dirty tank here, one that I haven't cleaned. It actually had salt water in it, so it's got salt crust on it and everything else. It's about as dirty can get. Hard water stains, you name it. We're going to take this thing back to brand new. I'm going to go over the kind of dirt that I use, and if you can't find this dirt, I'm going to get into a little detail on what is in this dirt and what you can look for in other dirt in terms of what it's made up of. Just keep away from the stuff that's got manure, but we'll get into those details. I've also got some equipment down there. We'll look at that. Pump, air stone, and heater, both equally dirty. We're going to clean those up as good as new, just as if you bought a used setup from somebody. And of course, if you buy new, you can skip over the cleaning part. You know, that's already taken care of because it's brand new. You just want to wipe it down. But let's go ahead and get started, and we're going to start building this tank out. We'll start with the dirt. Miracle-Gro Organic Choice Potting Mix. This mix for me is probably the quintessential success factor in keeping a Walstad tank. Not because it's Miracle-Gro, but because it is a very basic potting mix that doesn't contain any artificial or concentrated fertilizers, manure, anything like that that is going to cause huge spikes in things like ammonia or phosphate levels when they go into the tank, when it goes underwater, and when it gets into that aerobic bacteria breakdown. There's not a lot of leaching that's going to go back in the back. It's a slow release. It's natural, and it gives the bacteria, more importantly, a chance to actually break those things down before they leach up into the water column. And that's really the biggest thing around dirt. I see a lot of people that have dirt coming from other sources, or they will mineralize it so that it actually breaks those things down. They'll heat it up, dry it out, heat it up again, moisturize it, etc. I don't mineralize my soil, so I'm not going to go into the details of it, but that is one way to actually kind of condition your soil so that it actually will work well. I'm here to tell you, you don't have to do that. You can if you want to. You can mineralize this soil if you want, but I think what you're doing is you're shortening the lifespan of your soil a little bit too, in that this is meant to continuously feed and establish your plants, and then eventually through your feeding cycle, the lack of vacuuming, etc., the detritus will actually break down, go through the gravel back into the soil and regenerate those components, right? So let's talk about this. So Miracle-Gro Organic Choice. Not everybody's going to find this depending on where you are. I know I've got a lot of viewers that are overseas, as well as you know, just in general in different parts of the country in the U.S. that may not see this. But for the most part, Miracle-Gro's all over the U.S. So hopefully everybody can find it. It's definitely the one I recommend. But what is in here is more important than the label that's on it. And so let's flip this over. And what I want to show you guys is, believe it or not, there's an ingredients list on dirt. Now I know some of you are saying, what's the ingredient? Dirt? Right, yes, exactly. Good thing I'm not a comedian. So let's take a look at the list here, the ingredient list, and let me give you a breakdown of what you should be looking for, just in case you can't find Miracle-Gro. If you can find some other organic potting mix, or even if it doesn't say organic, if you can look at the ingredients, if they list the ingredients, if it matches those, you're pretty close to safe. One thing I want to say though is if it doesn't have any ingredients on it, walk away. It's not worth the risk. If you can't verify what's in it and understand the percentages of everything that's in it, don't waste your time on it, because once you put it in your fish tank, it'll be too late by the time you find out that it was the wrong thing. Okay, here we are with the ingredients. It says ingredients. So there's a couple of things that we're looking for in this area. One of the more important things that we're looking for is the amount of phosphate that's listed here. So this is listed as available phosphate, and the listing is 0.05% of the total volume is phosphate. That's an important number. So for those of you who don't know, phosphate, just consider it fertilizer. If you understand fertilizer and you understand plants, and fertilizer makes plants grow, phosphate is the really key ingredient here that gives plants energy. Now, the one thing that's really important to remember here is phosphate also gives energy to algae, which is another plant, right? Typically one we don't want growing in our fish tank. Now, Walstad method will help you maintain that balance and keep that algae from growing or getting a foothold by planting the tank heavily and allowing the plants to absorb the phosphate rather than the algae. Because given the opportunity, and all things being equal, algae will outgrow any plant that you can find because it's so successful. And one of the key ingredients that's going to drive it is going to be phosphate. Of course, there's light and everything else, but phosphate that we're talking about here will give algae a good foothold and ability to grow if you're not careful. So the amount of phosphate that's in here is important. The amount of phosphate in any dirt is important, and that's why we stay away from ones that have commercial fertilizers in them, because that's highly concentrated phosphate, and there's going to be high numbers in that. We want to stay away from that. So 0.05% is a really good rule of thumb. It's what I look for in dirt. I did see another bag of dirt that was put out by Vigo as organic, and I looked at the back, and they had very much identical numbers, including the phosphate. So if you're looking for dirt because you can't find Miracle-Gro and it doesn't have any artificial fertilizers or anything like that, but as a rule of thumb, whatever they use as an organic fertilizer in here, if it makes up more than 0.05% of the total volume, you probably want to walk away from it. It's probably going to cause you maybe a little bit more algae problems than you want. If you're going to mineralize the soil, if you already sort of know what you're going to do, you could mineralize it and wean that down a little bit. But again, we're going for the standard way to approach this. We're not trying to make things complicated. So look for Miracle-Gro or anything else. 0.05 is good. And as well for the rest of these, total nitrogen, 0.1% and 0.05% soluble potash. So that's going to make up. The other thing that's important is how the phosphate and potash are derived. So I noticed on both bags, both the Vigo and the Miracle-Gro, they actually listed that this product contains 0.097% slowly available nitrogen from pasteurized poultry litter. So that tells me really quickly what organic source they're using for fertilizer. So they're not using a chemically processed fertilizer, obviously they're using poultry litter. On the Vigo one, by the way, I think they called it turkey litter, which, turkey is poultry, so that's great. But these are the kind of things that you want to look for. Hopefully you're going to find this information useful. I don't think I need to get into the ins and outs of nitrogen and phosphate and all that, but the general levels, 0.1% nitrogen, 0.05% phosphate, and 0.05% potash will probably serve you well in picking this out if you can't find Miracle-Gro. If you can find Miracle-Gro, you're done.